York Jets of 2024 are one of the colossal failures in sports.
This was a statement by Greeny Calls. But we must agree, the New York Jets are one of the NFL's most iconic franchises, although they've struggled for decades to gain the respect that other teams command. Year after year, the Jets find themselves stuck in the same spot, fighting for respect in a league that seems to have written them off. Despite their history and loyal fans, the Jets are constantly branded as underdogs, overshadowed by rivals, and haunted by a string of missed chances. But why has it been so difficult for the Jets to earn the respect they deserve? What keeps them from breaking free from this frustrating cycle? Well, let's delve into the reasons behind the Jets' enduring struggle for recognition, examining the pivotal moments and decisions that have defined their journey. Without further ado, let's get started. The New York Jets began their journey as the Titans of New York in 1959, a team created as part of the upstart American Football League. Playing at the old Polo Grounds in Manhattan, the Titans struggled both financially and competitively. By 1963, the team faced significant financial trouble, prompting new ownership under Sonny Werblin, who rebranded the franchise as the New York Jets. The new name symbolized speed and modernity, chosen partly because the team's new stadium, Shea Stadium, was close to LaGuardia Airport. But while the Jets were ready for takeoff, success didn't just roll in. All of that changed in 1968 when quarterback Joe Namath led the Jets to a historic breakthrough. Namath, who is renowned for his confidence and swagger, famously assured victory in Super Bowl III over the Baltimore Colts, who were widely favored. He delivered in the face of adversity, helping the Jets win 16-7. This was an important turning point in NFL history, as this victory handed the Jets their first and only Super Bowl victory.
They have upset the Baltimore Colts and beat them handily here today.
They validated the AFL's level of competition in its struggle with the more established NFL. Not only did the win honor Namath and the Jets, but it also marked the AFL's increasing power and paved the way for the eventual AFL-NFL merger. For a moment, the Jets supporters felt excited and proud, and it appeared the team was set up for long-term success. However, the years that followed were anything but successful. But before we get into that, if you're enjoying this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell as we continue. You see, despite the triumph of Super Bowl III, the Jets struggled to replicate this high performance in their franchise history. The squad began a protracted downward spiral that included multiple seasons at the bottom of the standings and intermittent postseason trips. In the years following the Super Bowl, Namath suffered injuries that affected his play, and the team's inability to establish consistency at critical positions started to suffer. While other teams that entered the NFL in the post-merger era grew and developed consistent winning cultures, the Jets seemed stuck, unable to build on their success. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, the Jets made the playoffs only a handful of times, each time falling short of a championship run. Their problems were made worse by the team's ongoing managerial and player roster turnover. The sequence of fleeting hope followed by unavoidable disappointment was frustrating to supporters. With time, Super Bowl III started to feel less like a foundation and more like a far-off recollection as the years stretched into decades. The Jets' brief period of glory only seemed to highlight the gap between what they were and what they aspired to be. A gap that they have struggled to close to this day. So far, they have had a long and frustrating relationship with the postseason, rarely making it to the playoffs, and when they do, struggling to advance deep into the competition. You see, since their founding, the Jets have managed to secure only 14 playoff appearances across more than 6 decades of NFL play. This lack of continuous postseason involvement has been a constant cause of discontent for a team with a loyal fan base in one of the nation's biggest sports markets. Their postseason record, which stands at 12 wins and 13 losses overall, shows a brief stretch of success interspersed with many setbacks. Keenly, you will realize that their postseason struggles are particularly glaring compared to other teams with similar histories. While some franchises have leveraged even minor playoff appearances as springboards to build a winning culture, the Jets have often seen their postseason runs end abruptly, with little momentum carrying over to the following seasons. On the other hand, the fans have learned not to count on playoff appearances as a regular season-ending highlight, as years can pass without a single playoff game. Each season seems to hold a faint hope for change, only for that hope to fizzle out, often before the season's final stretch. This discontent has been exacerbated by the current playoff drought, which started in 2010. The Jets, led by head coach Rex Ryan, came within one game of the Super Bowl that year after an incredible run to the AFC Championship game. However, that season established a high mark that hasn't been matched or surpassed, rather than a turning point for the franchise. Since that run, they haven't made it back to the playoffs, a 13-year streak that is one of the league's longest current playoff droughts. Supporters and experts have frequently cited this extended absence as an indication of more serious difficulties within the team, problems that extend beyond bad luck or challenging scheduling. While other teams rebuild and rebound, the Jets appear caught in a loop, with each year's missed playoffs only amplifying the pressure to finally deliver a winning season. So, could the issue lie with the management? Well, the New York Jets' history of coaching and management instability is one of the most significant factors contributing to their lack of consistent success. In a league where continuity often leads to long-term results, the Jets have struggled to keep leadership in place long enough to establish a coherent vision. This pattern of frequent changes has undermined efforts to build a stable team identity and has prevented the franchise from cultivating a culture of winning. Over the decades, the Jets have cycled through head coaches and general managers at an alarming rate. Since 2000 alone, the team has had 9 head coaches, each arriving with their own plans, strategies, and philosophies. This constant turnover makes it nearly impossible for players to settle into a system or for a sustainable development strategy to take root. Just as players begin adapting to one coach's system, a new one is often brought in, resetting progress and requiring players to adjust once again. This revolving door of leadership has left the team without a solid foundation on which to build. This instability impacts players' growth and morale as well as the coaching staff. Player development is hampered by frequent changes because young players must continuously relearn systems, frequently at the expense of their own growth. Key players, including quarterbacks, are compelled to adjust to playbooks that are constantly changing or are placed in schemes that don't play to their strengths. Ultimately, the Jets' tendency to swap out leadership instead of addressing systemic issues has prevented them from building momentum. And it's not just that. With the correct selections and player development, the NFL Draft is where clubs construct their futures, frequently turning underperforming teams into contenders. But the draft has consistently been a source of annoyance and unrealized promise for the New York Jets. The Jets have had multiple high draft selections throughout the years, which has put them in a position to sign elite players, but the outcomes have rarely met expectations. The Jets have battled to establish consistently, frequently seeing their draft picks fail to have a lasting influence on the field, while other teams have used their draft resources to create cornerstone players. The Jets' incapacity to nurture the talent they select in the draft has been one of their main problems. Although many players don't realize their full potential under the team's tutelage, they come with promise. Since the stakes are highest in first-round choices, this problem has been more noticeable. And although they were both highly regarded talents, quarterbacks Mark Sanchez and Sam Darnold both had trouble with the Jets, leaving them early and having less than stellar careers. This pattern of drafting and then falling short in player development isn't merely bad luck. It reflects deeper issues within the organization. Whether due to frequent coaching changes, ineffective training programs, or lack of a cohesive development strategy, the Jets haven't created an environment that fosters growth. When combined with management and coaching instability, this failure to nurture top talent has left the Jets constantly trying to rebuild without ever establishing a solid foundation. Each draft miss compounds the next, creating a cycle of unmet expectations and leaving the team without key playmakers they need to compete consistently. Now, when you look at their recent performance, it also tells a story of something that should change. Yeah, they are impressive in some way,
Second and 12. Rodgers under pressure. Throws one-handed, caught. Wilson, touchdown.
But on other grounds, things are falling apart. On the one hand, they are in second place in the AFC East with a 3-6 record. Even though they recently defeated the Houston Texans 21-13, the Jets have had a lot of difficulties, especially offensively. On the other hand, they've averaged 87.7 running yards per game and are 30th in the league, which still shows that they have had difficulty developing a reliable ground game. The passing assault has been more under pressure due to the ground's lack of output. This mediocre performance, meanwhile, demonstrates the team's incapacity to produce spectacular plays or hold long drives. The team's struggles in running and passing games have been exacerbated by issues with the offensive line. There are also some mistakes they are making.
Get a little toss back here. Corley, plenty of room all the way to the end zone.
The execution. Boy, he dropped that ball. That's close.
That could have been an easy touchdown, but it was declined. On the other hand, though, they have played well defensively, allowing only 290.8 yards per game and ranking 4th in total defense. By restricting opponents' yardage and frequently putting the Jets within striking distance, the team's great defensive play has kept them competitive in many games. However, a persistent problem has been the offense's inability to take advantage of the defense's efforts. The team's turnover ratio, which is -3 and shows more giveaways than takeaways, further demonstrates their inconsistent play. They have also struggled with penalties. They now rank 31st in the league with 650 penalty yards. The team's difficulties have been exacerbated by these self-inflicted injuries, which have prolonged opponents' possessions and stopped drives. So far, the Jets' 2024 campaign has been characterized by defensive tenacity and offensive inefficiencies. The team's ability to maintain game control and score points has been hampered by a lack of a well-rounded offensive attack, as well as problems with ball security and discipline. To improve their record and lay the groundwork for future success, the Jets will need to fix these offensive shortcomings and cut down on penalties as the season goes on. In the meantime, they have a long way to go. We will just have to wait and see how things unfold.